joining me today for her annual interview to talk about your tax bills. It's your finance director, Misty Dodge. You know, you're famous, Misty, on the government channel of Fact TV because you're constantly on there doing your job. Hello.
A lot of things have to do with money. So yes, I'm involved in a lot of different things here.
It's a busy time of year, so we got to get right into this, and for good reason. We got a lot to discuss this year. We're breaking this up in a couple of different sections. We're going to be doing strictly the regular City of Fitchburg tax bill. We're going to talk about the Town of Madison tax bill as well in a separate interview for folks who have become annexed as part of the annexation from the town into City of Fitchburg. But first, let's start with City of Fitchburg residents and where they're at. And all this is online, by the way, at fitchburgwi.gov. Click on the finance tab and you'll find all these things we talk about. But Misty, we've got a tax bill in front of us here, and we're going to start, we're going to go right along with the numbers here as you see it on your screen as well. So let's start with first off, and most importantly, the bill number.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd like to first talk a little bit about why there's kind of these two different batches. So property tax bills are based off of the value and the property that was in place as of the first of the year. So as of the first of the year, 1/1/22, the town of Madison still existed. So that's why those are kind of separate batches of taxes, because the town of Madison obviously doesn't exist any longer. And so the city of Fitchburg is picking that up. But since all of this information is based off of 1/1, you have to think of it in this transition year as kind of two separate pieces. So yeah, what's in front of you now is a property that was a City of Fitchburg property as of 1/1/22, has been for a long time. So the first number here is the bill number. And when you make your payments, especially if it's by check, if you could reference that bill number on the bottom, that's really helpful for us, just to make sure that your payment is applied to the appropriate spot.
Absolutely. Moving on to your property address, but your assessed value and breaking that down.
Yeah, so the property tax bill is based off of every property's assessed value. So on this example bill, that assessed value is $498,500. That's when we get to the tax rate. That's the value that tax rate is applied to and how the bill is calculated. We do also have an estimated fair market value on there. What that amount is to get to is you take the assessed value, number 2, times the assessment ratio, which is number 3, in order to get to that estimated fair market value. And how we get to that ratio is the state looks at all of the sales across the entire city, not property by property, but as a group, and figures out how those two values compare. Where your assessed value is specifically for your property, the assessor has been out there, looked at your data, made sure that that value is uniform with the rest of the properties in the city. So that estimated fair market value is on here as a point of information, but is really a function of some statistics.
And Misty, would it be fair to say that it is important and why we do have the assessments done each and every year? It depends what type of assessing year, but it's important that you keep reevaluating so everybody is paying what I would say their fair share and getting this number to be accurate.
Exactly. So uniformity is really important when you're doing assessments. And you want to make sure that if you have two properties that are essentially the same, that they should be valued essentially the same. And so that uniformity is important and why the assessors do what they do to make sure that if one class of property is increasing or decreasing or doing something differently than another class of property, that they can reflect that each year.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to box 5 then on the net assessed value rate.
And so this is the tax rate. Some people also call it a mill rate. This rate here is the actual amount that you would multiply by your assessed value. You move the decimal place over because it's actually a rate per $1,000 in value. This amount also works out to that $20.56 per $1,000 of assessed value. And that's how you would get to your total tax bill amount that we'll show later down here.
Fantastic. Then moving into the fun stuff. And this section was one that when we first did this interview, that totally stood out to me like, oh, and I think this will help a lot of people understand the breakdown of actually the tax bill.
Exactly. So it's important for people to understand that the city of Fitchburg is the one that's collecting the tax bills, at least the first installment. We mail them, we print them, but it's collecting money for a lot of different overlying jurisdictions, including Dane County, obviously city functions, school district, whether you're in Madison, Verona, or Oregon school district, and then also the tech college. So the bill does a nice job of laying that out for each one of those separate jurisdictions. And then over here on the right, this number 6, you can see by jurisdiction how much your tax bill is changing from last year. So this particular tax bill is pretty close to what the average home did. So the city of Fitchburg's portion of the bill went down on the average home about 2.9%, or about $75 for the average home. And then the other jurisdictions, you can see kind of how they mapped out. And then in total here at the bottom of this big pink box is what the overall tax bill did as compared to last year. And this percent increase depends, of course, on what your assessment value did as compared to the average, and then also what particular school district you're in.
Moving on to boxes 7 and 8, looking at the first dollar credit and lottery gaming credit.
So both of these are credits that are basically money that comes off the top, money that the property taxpayer doesn't have to pay. That first dollar credit is automatic. It only applies to properties that have an improvement value. But if you have improvements on your property, that tax credit will be automatic. The one that I want everybody to look for, though, is this lottery and gaming credit. So on this bill in the Verona School District, that's $318.06. This credit is not automatic. So in order to qualify for this credit, that property had to have been your primary residence as of the first of the year. If it was, check and see if you got that lottery credit. If the lottery credit's not on there, there's a really simple form that you have to fill out to notify the city of Fitchburg and then ultimately the state that you are eligible for this credit, and we can get that put on your bill right away. So go out to the website, get that form, submit that with your payment, or come in and we can walk you through it as well. A big thing to watch for, especially for new construction. Fitchburg's been building a lot of new homes recently. And again, it's not automatic. So if you are a new construction or your home's been built in the past couple years, definitely pay attention. If you are in that home as your primary residence as of the first of the year, you want to make sure you get that credit.
Awesome. Moving into the number 9 box here, looks like it's got our net property tax and the trash pickup charge, if you will.
Yeah, so this bottom kind of box will be where all of the special assessments and special charges are placed on the bill. So all residential homes and duplexes will have a trash pickup charge. That was $228 for the service you'll receive in 2023 for a single family, and then double that for a duplex. That is a increase from last year. It's about a 6% increase from last year, and that's due to the increased costs that we're paying Pelletary in order to provide that service for us. Other charges that might be in this box could be if you had delinquent utilities that would show up there. If you have an installment payment for a special assessment, that would be in there. Or if there's other special assessments or charges that are owed that are able to be put on the tax bill, you'll see them shown up in this box.
Fantastic. And moving over into the payment section, if you will, of 10 and 11, break it down for us on how this works.
And so we'll talk again in the future about kind of how to make payments and such. But in general, you can either pay in full or you would have to pay at least the first installment, which would be box 10 and 11. All payments through January 31st come here to the city of Fitchburg at City Hall. Payments after that need to go to Dane County because they do the collections for any payments after January 31st.
Fantastic. You are right. We will talk about more of these questions, payment timing, all of that coming up in a different segment. Moving on then to box 12, and this is going to, again, talking about tax jurisdiction. No, I can't even say it. Go correct me. Have at it.
Yeah, jurisdiction. So this is for referendums that have been placed on the property owners that are non-recurring. So school districts, all 3 of the school districts that operate here in the city of Fitchburg have a referendum right now, and all 3 of them have a non-recurring referendum, and you'll see something in this section of the bill. It's cool thing about this is you can see how much of your actual property tax bill is going to each one of those referendums. So in this example, in the Verona school districts for this property, $76 is going towards the first referendum, and $667 of this particular bill is going to that second referendum. So we get a couple of questions here sometimes. One is, Verona School has recently approved an operating referendum as well, which is primarily used for staffing and other things. That is one that will continue. It's a recurring one, not a non-recurring. So it does not show up in this section. This is only the ones that will end at some point, generally for buildings.
That's good to know, because you're right. Verona did have that continued one there. So very good to point that out, Misty. And finally, number 13, lucky box, check for billing address change. So important.
Yeah, so we can't change the property address, and we can't change who the owner is. That all has to go through the county register of deeds. But if you do have a billing address change, the city can change that for you. So for example, at this time of year, you're generally somewhere warm instead, and you want your tax bill to go there. You could check this box, let us know, and we could change your billing address or your mailing address for future years.
All right, final question for you, Misty. That each tax bill did come with the insert about explaining this information. That is on the website. So people, if there are other questions, certainly we'll have our other segment to talk about this, but where can they get and learn more about how the stuff we've talked about, or just general questions?
Yeah, so there's a few different resources. So one, in every tax bill, we did include that insert. I really like that fast facts section over on the right that kind of show you some statistics for how this year compares to last year or other years. It also talks about payment methods, lottery credits, pet licenses, all sorts of information in there. And then that same information is also included on the city's website. So if you go to the finance department, there is a tax and credit information section of our website that has all of this information, as well as links to the tax insert. Dane County put together a really good frequently asked questions section. There's lots of information available online.